All right, so what we're going to do in this video is maybe expand on something like this, but we're going to go from this table, essentially, which is what we started working on inside of Maya, and then add a little texture and a little cake on the top. And yeah, so let's jump back into Maya. All right, so here we are in Maya. Now, the table itself is a little bit triangulated. So if I move it off to the side here, you can see that it has some faceted edges. So I'll turn on the wireframe unshaded. This is also very high poly, and in another video, I'll show you how to clean this up. But for now, we'll kind of leave it as is. So because this isn't really more of a modeling, this is more of a just sort of a survey series, which talks a little bit about each part of the game development process. So what I generally do is, if we look at the way this is inside of here, you don't see this table, this top table part, you only see the legs. So it's really unnecessary for us to have that. It's a waste of additional geometry. So let's go ahead and create one leg and then duplicate it. So I'm gonna go to create polygon primitives, cube, and I'm just gonna make a box here. And then what I'd like to do is delete this top face because we're also not going to see that. And this might be a little big, so I'm gonna hold down the right mouse button, go to object mode, hit R, and scale this down a little bit. Just kind of lining it up this way. And then I'll go up to mesh tools, insert edge loop tool, and I'll add a cut down the bottom and the top. And the reason for that is, let's go back to object mode here, hit W. When I smooth this, so let's go to mesh and then smooth, you can see it retains that shape. And I also do not need a lot of these edges. So I'm gonna double click one edge there. You'll see it looped around. And then I'm gonna hit Control plus backspace at the same time to get rid of these. If you only hit backspace, what happens is, if I go to vertex mode here, you can see it leaves these vertices in there, and that's a problem. So what you want to do is make sure that you keep it pretty clean. Same thing here, this edge up top isn't really doing anything. So right click again, go to object mode, then hit W for your move tool. And let's just move that into place where the legs are. I'm gonna hit R and just sort of play with that, bring it down. I'm gonna hold spacebar down, right click and go to the right view, just to make sure I'm lining this up with the bottom here. Something like this, let's bring it down. All right, going back to perspective mode, I can delete this table now and just grab this leg, holding shift, duplicate it, grab both of these, and then I'm actually gonna go ahead and delete these two cloths because I don't really need them. And here's the, oh, you know what? Let me leave them in there and then do edit, delete all by type, history. And then I believe if I delete these, my plane, oh, looks like the plane's still there. Let me see, let me hit Control A here. It doesn't have anything there. And then this, let's see, let me select both of these. And then I want to break that connection. Delete all by type, history. And then let's freeze transform on, let's center pivot. And then freeze transform. And I believe once we combine these, so let's try that again. Let's shift copy these. I think once we combine the 4 legs by going to mesh, combine here, and then I do delete by type history again to clear out all those. I think now we can delete all 3 of these, and yeah, there we go. So we don't get the plane. So there's our table. Now let's take a look at how we can unwrap this. I'm going to pause the video and open up a browser tab from Firefox. All right, so inside of Firefox, I typed in Tileable Tablecloth texture. You can see there's a bunch of these textures here. I went with just one of these originally, and I like to use DuckDuckGo because it does a pretty good job of just isolating the image. So for instance, say I would like to make my tablecloth this image. If I click here and then I click on View File, or really the same thing as just clicking here, you could see I have this saved. So I'm just gonna right click and I'm gonna do Save Image As. Now I have a shortcut set up on directly to this folder, the objects folder, where I can just save to that. So I'm gonna go ahead and just do that. All right, let's take a look at how we can apply that texture. So for the legs here, I'm going to right click and go to face mode, and I'm going to double click by holding shift, or I'm going to select all 4 of these legs by holding shift and double clicking each one of them. And I'm going to right click and then go down to assign new material. So let me do that. So I'm just right clicking and holding the right mouse button, assign new material. And I'm going to name this Lambert. And sometimes you don't get to Lambert 2 right away, but you'll see it at the end. And then or whatever yours Lambert ends up being. And I'm just going to name this table underscore leg and then underscore MTRL. And I don't have a table leg material for now, but this is important for when we bring this into Unreal. Let's double click this cloth, and I'm going to right click, and I'm going to assign a new material, and I'm going to make that a Lambert as well. You can adjust the specularity and stuff inside of Unreal, which is what I normally do. And I like to use Lamberts, just flat textures for stuff like this, just so I can see the texture. So this is just going to be table underscore cloth underscore MTRL. And under color here, I'm going to just, so say you click off, and you go to face mode, and you double click it, and then if you say you don't see this here, you can right click here, and then do material attributes, and that'll just isolate this. But I'm going to click on this color slot, and then I'm going to go to file, and I'm going to click this folder and just navigate to the objects folder that has that gold texture in it. So clicking here, you can see here's gold tablecloth. I'm going to open that up. Now, if you don't see it, press the number 6 key, and you'll see now we have it applied. The thing is, with this, it actually did a very good job of laying out these UVs. Now, if yours looks screwed up, you can go up to UV here, and go to UV editor, and notice that it actually didn't fill up this whole side here. But because we started off with a plane, it actually gives you, it already kind of comes off in a square pattern, but this isn't the correct size because you can see this isn't a perfect square. We have folds. So what I do is I hold down the right mouse button inside our UV editor. I go to UV and I just double click this and then just click unfold once. And this is really great for any kind of planes. Now, if I go to here and I take off selection highlighting, let's see. Well, actually, I guess we'll leave that, but let's do show. You know what, I'm going to have to look that up and then get back to it, but how we can hide this where we have little green dots. But if I zoom in a little bit and say I want this pattern to be bigger, I can hit R in here and I can scale this up, or pattern smaller or bigger, I can scale up or scale down. So I actually kind of I want to find someplace in between here. So something like that. Now I'm going to go to object mode. And let's go ahead and just create a sort of, we have a cake. I had made a cake before. So yeah, you know what? Let's go ahead and make maybe like another cake and some just quick, maybe some plates stacked up here. So a trick that I do is I can select this table and I can do this option here, which is make live. And that allows me to draw on the surface of the object. So I'm going to go to create polygon primitive cube. And I'm going to just drag out what I'd like the big plate that this should sit on to look like. Now I'm going to uncheck make live. And maybe the stack of plates will be off to the side here. So if you remember before, what I did is I went to mesh tool, or yeah, mesh tools, I believe. Yeah, insert edge loop tool. And I just added a cut at the top and the bottom. Then I right clicked, went to object mode, reselected this, and then just did mesh and smooth. And there's my plate. Now, a cylinder is great because I can actually make a cake like this. If you want to make your birthday cake have more candles, I can duplicate this again, scale it down. And now I have a cylindrical candle, right? And what I'd like to do actually is, I'm going to right click and go to face mode and then just delete all these unnecessary faces. Vertex mode and just flatten this out a little bit. And let's do center pivot here. I'm going to move it down to the center. It's a really big candle. And then grab all those verts on the top, scale it up. And maybe you want to do a 3-year-old's cake or something. All right, so there's 3 candles there. Same thing in here, always optimize, right? I'm going to go in here and get rid of these extra ones. Same thing here. Get rid of these extras. Let's zoom in a little bit here. And let's make those plates by shift clicking or dragging. And then I'll go to face mode and just select these top faces here. Bring those down a little bit. And there we have like kind of a little bit of a domed out plate, holding shift and stacking some plates here. Maybe we can offset a couple, so looks like we have a little bit of a messy birthday. All right, so I'm gonna highlight all of this and then just do, let's see, mesh combine. And then you'll notice we have a lot of transforms or something that'll appear in here. So let's do, let's see, mesh combine, come on. Did I not select combine? Yeah, and now you can see we have all these transforms left over. So we're gonna do edit, delete it all by type, history. And then what we can do is I'm gonna hit Control A here and then name this table underscore BD for birthday underscore 02 underscore SM for static mesh. And what I'd like to do is, let's hit F to focus, is just hit D and then bring this down to our grid. And I can also do that by hitting X to snap it. Now, one thing is I am not facing forward here, right? So let's see if we could turn on our view cube. And you could see our table is actually facing the left. So if I rotate this on the y-axis 90 degrees, yeah, let's go 90. But I'd like to make sure this is all cleaned out. So I'm gonna do modify, freeze transformation. And then let's go ahead and export this out. So I'm gonna grab this here because I want the name of my FBX to be the same. So I'm gonna do file, export selection. And I'm gonna make sure that I'm in that objects folder, paste in that name here. Embed materials is fine. I don't have any animation, so I tend to turn that off when I don't have any of that information. And then let's hit export selection. Let's jump back into Unreal. And all of this is fine. I don't have a skeletal mesh, so I'm gonna leave that off and I'm gonna hit import all. Now, what you'll notice is with this new table, so let's go ahead and delete both of these. And I think I'm going to build out this kitchen next, but this will be kind of like a separate dining area. But let's see, we have our table underscore BD static mesh. Now here's something that you'll find interesting. You're probably wondering, well, if it's set at 100%, why is it so much smaller than the initial table that we had imported into Maya? The reason for that is you want to make sure when you go to export from here that your settings are set to centimeters. So I'm going to hit save. Now you'll see it's the actual size that it left Unreal. So if I do file, export all, and I export over this, what you'll notice is we jumping into Unreal, after it's done updating, there we go, our table has popped up in size. And because we have that tablecloth already in here, it went ahead and found that material. See that? Tablecloth material. And it actually looks pretty good. So I'm going to position it right about here so that when we play our game, let's hit Alt-P here. I'm going to probably play with the scaling of a lot of this stuff. And like I said in previous videos, I'm going to make another character that's a little bit bigger than this anyway. But yeah, that's a little huge, that scaling, but it looks pretty good. And we haven't even textured our plates or anything yet. So that's really it for this video. In the next one, we'll take a look at moving into something like character modeling.